we need to talk about our heroes. And like I said, Mass Effect 2's list of characters is much bigger than 1. And I feel like we'll start with like the first 2 people you get. And I'll start with 1 because I already know Randy has very strong opinions about this one. And that's Miranda.
Part 2, Electric Boogaloo.
I thought Miranda was cool, but also that's because I am a straight male and am very skewed in my opinion with some. Because I thought Miranda is one of the more attractive characters that you're allowed to have in your squad, and I actually will say I liked her story about her being essentially built. And that's almost part of her story. It's like, yeah, I'm built to be perfect. I'm built to be like the perfect like AI and this object of attraction. And I was like, okay, I actually found her story like interesting. She was who I originally was trying to romance, and then things happened and I changed to a different answer, which I'll talk about later. But I will admit, and I'll let Randy go off on her about this. I will admit, she can be a bit of a bitch sometimes, to put it bluntly. A lot of her dialogue is like disagreeing, never to the point of like Ashley. I never got the sense that she was racist, despite working for Cerberus, which is like a whole human faction. I always get the sense that she was more just like a perfectionist and very like cautious of people, like very untrustworthy of everyone. And there were really only like a few instances when I was just like, okay, that was a very much a step too far. So I liked her character, especially compared to the other human companion that you start with. I liked her a bit more. But Randy, I feel like you want to talk about Miranda.
This bitch.
Oh boy.
Go ahead.
All right, and I'll even come up front to be like, do I have really super valid opinions on her? Maybe not really. At least like in comparison to Ashley.
At least you're honest.
Yeah, she felt really off-putting to me of just being like, I'm perfect and I'm the best ever, and I'm here to do a job, Shepard. And yeah, I'll listen to you, I guess. But remember, I'm working for the elusive man. Meh, I'm a bitch. And like, anytime you brought like anyone on board, she was like, who, her? All right, that was a gay joke that you guys probably don't get. Anyway, it's just, I don't know, she felt just very just like, I don't like anyone and I'm the best and we could just like, I'm just too perfect for this or whatever. And I don't know, she just felt very like frustrating and annoying. And then even when she does open up to being like, well, see, I was built to be perfect and then I ran away from my father and I have a twin sister, but like just genetically, she's only like 18 and whatnot. And I stole her when I left too. And it's just, I don't know, it felt generic to me of just being like, I was perfect, but I didn't ask to be perfect. Wah. I don't know. I just, like I said, maybe they're not valid points, but like, I just didn't like her.
I want to throw something in here. Not because I have much to say about Miranda. She's not my favorite. I like her enough, but I do. Here's the beauty of Mass Effect 2 that I really like about it. If for whatever reason you don't like a character, for whatever reason, you can kind of choose to completely ignore them. You can get them killed. Like, and that's kind of the beauty of this game.
I did.
Yeah.
Randy, did you purposely get one of your own squad mates killed?
Maybe. Maybe her name was... maybe it wasn't. I don't know.
Go ahead, Seth. I'm sorry.
No, like I think that was it. It's just that like it's the beauty of this game. Hey, I like Miranda, but that doesn't mean you have to like Miranda. And if you really don't like Miranda, there's ways to get her out of the story.
That is...
So, That's cool. I like that. I think that's just one of the cool things about being able to have these choices in Mass Effect 2. It's just there are characters where they set you up with her from the very start, but after that point you're like, shit, dude, I'm not gonna talk with you after this.
Yeah. They do give you like literally one of the it's very early on of just like one of your first missions, like assemble the crew, and you get a bunch of missions all at once. So you can get your 2 people that you love really quick, only play with them, and then finish the game. And those will probably be the only 2 people that survive. But you can get them really fast.
If you want to play it that way, you can. Yeah.
I mean, with the exception of a few characters that are like, you have to wait for story things to happen before you get them. But I don't know. I don't have as harsh of feelings about Miranda. The one moment where I was like, okay, shut up, bitch, was when she went at Joker. Because like Randy mentioned, at one point, you and your entire squad leave, and the crew's attacked, and the only one that wasn't captured was Joker, and obviously the ship's AI. And Miranda gets back and is like, Joker, what the heck did you do? You let the AI free? And that's when I was like, okay, he is basically a cripple with the way his bones work. What was he gonna do? Like, what was he supposed to do?
What am I supposed to do? Break my arm at him?
Yeah, I think that was exactly what I said. Like, all right,
Yeah.
that was the one moment where I'm like, okay, chill out. Literally, he had no options.
He saved the ship.
He literally saved the ship, and like we're doing our best here. So enough of you. So that was one moment I was like, okay, I agree with that. But I liked her loyalty mission. I'm a bit more biased towards her for obvious reasons, but clearly, probably, Randy, would you say probably your least favorite character of 2? Like of your squad?
Yeah.
Okay. Think about it for a minute.
I mean, I guess her character is more interesting than Zaeed or Zaeed.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
We'll get to them.
But like, at least Zaeed's funny.
Sometimes. So, yeah. I don't know.
He's got some funny shit.
Yeah.
So.
We'll wait to them because the other person that you do start off with, is Jacob, and Jacob to me in this game is just Caden again. Like, I have nothing against Jacob. I'm sure he's fine. But he's just really kind of boring. Like, he's just like, yeah, I'm a commander and I work for Cerberus, and and I work for you. I
used to be Alliance, and I'm a biotic, except I'm not an L2. All right. So I don't have the migraines.
Like, that's and that's like, it's okay. And like, I literally can't even, like, I remember his loyalty mission and it was cool, but his loyalty mission was about like his dad. And I don't think Jacob's character really changed after that. Like, he didn't do anything. There wasn't anything. He's just kind of, he's just there. There's nothing wrong with him, but it's like Caden, where I'm just like, I mean, welcome aboard, but you're here.
So,
yeah.
I think I will throw in my 2 cents here and defend Jacob just a little bit, not a lot, because I agree he is like pretty boring compared to everybody else. But there's a couple of things I do appreciate. One, I appreciate that like he's pretty upfront about Cerberus. Is like, yeah, Cerberus is kind of sketch. I don't trust them, but I'm working with them because right now they seem to be the only people doing anything. And I do appreciate that frankness with him, with like Shepard. I do appreciate that when you're working with Cerberus and you're kind of questioning the motives of like Maranda and the Elusive Man, there's just Jacob here who's just basically being like, hey, I get it. Like, I'd be suspicious too. I am suspicious. And it does make him feel more like a bro in that sense, and he has that going for him. But beyond that, he's not that interesting. I appreciate his honesty,
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah. He's honest.
Today's lesson for the podcast. If you're going to be honest, if you're boring and honest, not cool. If you're lying and interesting, that's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. I like We like lying and interesting. But yeah.
If you could be honest and interesting at the same time, though, that's probably what.
Oh yeah, that's peak.
That's
Yeah.
peak,
That's peak, but that's striving for a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I thought his loyalty mission was interesting with like the whole messing with his issue with his dad. And I'm like, it's a cool story of like his dad essentially enslaving these people. It was a bit weird because I've never I don't think that maybe it is later on, but like that weird effect that pretty much makes you go primitive, or whatever was happening on that planet. I don't know if that's like the first time this has ever been brought up, and it kind of just felt, at least maybe to me, it just kind of felt out of left field and kind of weird.
Well, it had to deal with like
it feels very
or like the plants that they were eating.
Yeah, and I think it feels. I mean, like all of these are technically side quests. You don't have to do any of these loyalty missions. But you know, you're probably going to play through a lot of these because they're kind of the main draw of this game. Out of all the loyalty missions, that one felt the most, side questy. Where it's like, yeah, this feels more like a side story. Where it's like it's a neat concept that's like there's something weird about this planet, but that's really about it. Like it's like it's not going to play into the overall story that much. It doesn't really seem to play too much into Jacob's character either, because Jacob even tells you up front, is like, hey, I thought my dad was dead a long time ago, and this really didn't change my opinion on him. It's like, oh wow, okay,
it's well be dead, and which he pretty much is dead at the end.
So, you can kill him. Actually, I'm pretty sure you can just shoot him. That's like your three options. It's like you leave him on the planet, and then like people eat him, or you shoot him, or you take him and put him in prison, and then you never see him again. So either way, he's basically dead to you.
Yeah, like that's basically that's the way Jacob puts it too. It's just like, yeah, he was already dead to me anyways. So this changed nothing. It's like, all right. So
also
they
like
really just pointless.
Also, it never even seemed like Jacob even liked his dad that much when you first.
I guess he wasn't around. Yeah, that was the problem. Was like whenever he was younger, he wasn't really around anyway. So it felt pointless. It's weird because like I think this is in the books. But I think one of the reasons Jacob joins Cerberus is because something happens with like his old squad in the Systems Alliance, like some really sketch stuff. And I haven't read the book. I just remember like reading basically Snopes notes or whatever on it.
Yeah.
But like it's weird that it's like that's not like a storyline or mission for him. It's like, wait, what about his old squad? Like what happened to them? Like
I wonder if they didn't do that because that's similar to kind of what they did for Garrus's loyal mission, and they thought it'd be too similar.
That's probably true. Yeah, that's probably the case. It'd probably be too similar.
I guess also, did the book come out after the game?
I would imagine.
Think it was like before. I think it was before the game. It was like one of those things where it was like sort of the build up to the release. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there was I remember one of the big things that came out before, and apparently was pretty good, was there was a mini series of comics about the events between Mass Effect 1 and 2, and it's about Liara immediately after the Normandy is destroyed. We'll get into that later, but I heard that comic's pretty good.
That's interesting. But yeah, what's not that interesting though is Jacob, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And while technically, I'll say, unless I'm assuming that was the end of with Jacob.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And while technically the next squad member you get is also human and technically a DLC, we'll come back to him because I want to talk about. I want to go to a character that I think we all love, and you get him pretty early. I mean, you can obviously after the first two, you can kind of really the first three, you can get them in any order, but one that you probably should get pretty early on is a Mr. Mordin Solus, the first Solarian that you can have on your squad, and this probably it was my favorite character in Mass Effect 2. At least my favorite character that also wasn't my favorite new character. I'll say it like that. Mordin is great. Again, his story also relates to the Genophage experiments, and he was kind of the he was not only like part of that, but also trying to find kind of a solution for it. And then it's very in depth, and I'd probably rather have Seth explain in a minute because he can do it better than I. But Mordin is really interesting. He's very fascinated on his ideals about what the Genophage is and about how far should science go. He's super fun. He was super interesting to talk about. At least for me, I always went and talked to him about almost everything all the time between missions. He's just a really interesting guy, and if you get his loyalty up enough, he'll even sing for you, which I don't know how you could beat that. So, yeah, I don't know. I love Mord. He's great, and also like at least gameplay wise, he was super fun to have on the squad. Like after a while, my squad definitely changed around a bunch in 2 because I was still figuring characters out. But towards like the end game, I always had Mord on my side because he had both fireballs and essentially frost powers, and there were some really fun combos I could do with that. So, but I'll let Seth talk about Mord because I'm pretty sure he's also one of your favorites as well.
He is. Yeah. And just to explain his backstory a little bit there too. Yeah, basically, Mordin did not create the Genophage because that happened centuries ago. It was way before he was even existed.
Solarians don't live that long.
But he was the main person who, when the Genophage's effects were starting to wear off from generation to generation, he was one of the Solarians and the main like kind of project lead tasked with essentially creating Genophage Part 2, revamping the disease. And it's unquestionable that what he did is absolutely horrendous. And when you talk with Mordin, he always tries to justify with his own morals, but you can tell that it's a very interesting tug and pull with him, where you can tell with like the way he talks about it, the fact that he's like started to take on certain spiritual things like prayers and tries to honor certain aspects about Krogan culture, is that it's clear that he's a doctor who carries an immense sense of guilt for his part in this act. But at the same time, he still is conflicted. And he's like, well, I had to do it for like the greater good of the galaxy. If the Krogan were to populate like regularly, there would be issues with overpopulation, and it would it could lead to things like just full on war over territory in the galaxy.
Because they're just so strong, and just a lot of them are just bloodthirsty. So
the thing about the Krogans is like they are an extremely durable race. They live for thousands of years, and they have children, like multiple children at once. Like it's not unusual for a Krogan family to have like 10 or so kids per family. So they breed quickly and they live for a long time. And it's like, well, that could lead to like some issues with like the galaxy, with like the balance of it. At least that's the way Mordin tries to justify it, instead of, trying to treat them as like, well, they're sentient beings. You can't do this. Maybe there's a way you could kind of compromise of this, but inflicting a disease on them is wrong. But Mordin sees it the other way. And like I said, I love it because like, it's weird because he's almost like, he's like a really fun family member to have around. Like he's throwing jokes, he's witty, he's fun with the kids, he's a great guy. But there's this like dark past with him that like eats away at him, and it eats away with him, but he just hasn't reached the point yet where he's like willing to own up to his mistakes yet, because he still believes that he did the right thing. Yeah. It makes such an interesting and morally complex character. I love Mordin, and slight spoiler for Drew's playthrough, Mordin does survive his playthrough. I'm so excited for you to see how he turns out in Mass Effect 3. I really am.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely one of my favorite characters as well. I remember I based a D&D character just very loosely on him at one point, just because of how much I loved that character.
That might be the nerdiest thing that has been said on this podcast, but I'm down for it.
All right. Anyway.
No, I'm just saying, like, you base one video game character off of D&D. I mean, I'm down for it. We're still planning on, like, I wish I could do that, but sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, he's definitely, I think, my favorite new character, for sure, in this game. Just having someone that is so morally complex, and yes, I am excited to see him moving forward.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Fair enough. Yeah. Won't talk too much because again, haven't played the next game. So, moving forward though, let's go with. I'll talk about this character, and this is a Mass Effect 1 recurrent. But I want to talk about because this was my romance interest in the second game, because this is the first game you can do it, and that is Tali'Zorah Vasnama, or by the end of the game, Vast Normandy, because Tali is, and what her race is. A quick explanation. They are please the wiki load up faster. Corians. Yeah, thank you. I was like, it's not loading fast enough.
Now.
Not the wiki. But she, they're a race where like they were kicked off of their original home planet by the Geth, correct? Yes.
Correct.
Yes, the Geth.
Yep.
And they have a trouble surviving anywhere that's not their planet. So they're always in their suits and they're always in like ships. That's why their last names are always associated with whatever ship they're assigned to, and they have like a lot of loyalty to that. Anyway, Tali's a very interesting character because she is very focused on like her family, and her ship are a big part of her identity, and her big loyalty mission is she's kicked off of her ship. Like she can't use that last name anymore, and so you have to go to trial and figure out why. And it's a lot of big political issues about, she's sent Geth material, but in reality, there's a much more underlying theme of the Quarians want to go back to war and fight the Geth and move again. And I really liked her mission. I liked going through the trial. And I just kind of liked Tali because since from Mass Effect 1, she was always the one that stood out more. She was different. She wasn't just there for like, ooh, I'm sexy blue person, or ooh, I'm sexy human person. She actually felt like she has a character, and it felt just. I feel like I can relate to her more, and also like, it feels like her character actually has growth than just being immediately infatuated with Shepard. And also, it's an interesting dynamic of when you do actually romance her, that it is a weird issue of, you and her want to be together, but then the issue becomes, well, that's going to hurt her. Like, she will get physically sick if you try to do a romance option between them. So there's an interesting dynamic between that. But I like Tali. Again, one of the characters that survived my playthrough, so I'm very happy with that. And I'm interested to see what her story leads to in 3. But Randy, what are your thoughts about Tali?
Yeah, Tali, I really liked her loyalty mission quite a bit. About pretty much she was sending Geth parts to her father back on their ship.
The flotilla.
The flotilla. Yeah. Well, the flotilla is the group of ships.
Yeah.
Yeah. And pretty much it was supposed to be just, and they were all, dead, non-functioning Geth parts and whatnot. And it was supposed to figure out how to just maybe figure out ways to help penetrate their armor, things like that, is kind of what Tali was told is what she was sending it back for. Turns out they were sending it back, and they were working on kind of like a network-wide hack or like a virus that could reprogram and take them over, basically, so that way they could return back to the home world. And so this obviously became really dangerous, because then that ends up for them to test that, they have to have active Geth. And if you have active Geth on any of the ships of the flotilla, that's like a big, how could you do this? These were the, these were the things that kicked us off our planet.
These were the colonizers,
and it's
the
like
white
extremely,
man.
yeah.
If you want to relate to U.S. history.
And is just like, it can be extremely dangerous and things like that. And then also in regards to the romance to Tali and whatnot, Will actually romanced Tali, and that was fun to watch. Getting to see kind of how kind of, I don't know, she gets flustered and stuff. It's like, oh, how do I? It is endearing and cute and whatnot. And so
I think that's another reason why I related to Tali, because I also feel that anytime like I realize like, oh wait, this is like flirting. I'm like, oh god, what's happening? Oh my god, I don't know how to react.
Panic.
Panic, and I'm like, that's a very realistic thing to happen to a person. So I think that's another reason I'm like, oh, it's cute. So.
But yeah, having her loyalty to her family and to her people, and kind of how she explains like Quarians are very social people, because they have to, it's hard to be express other forms of being social and whatnot, because they're always in their suits
their feelings
and
all the time.
Yeah,
because you can't see their face.
Yeah, you can't really see their face and stuff like that. So it's hard for them to express things like that. So they have to constantly kind of be around each other. So if Tali was to have be pretty much exiled from the Fatilla, it'd be heartbreaking and just like a tragedy. And so having her backstory there and or her loyalty mission be there, I thought was really, really good.
Yeah. So what about you? What are your thoughts on Tali?
Well, I mean, I'll just go ahead and get out of the way. Is that Tali is best girl? I did romance her.
Okay, so we all had the same. I didn't realize we all chose the same. I guess Randy's boyfriend did, but yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, well, when I played through Mass Effect multiple times. I've tried out different romances, and Tali always ends up being my personal favorite. I just really like her dynamic with Shepard and all that. I think she's just she's fun, she's goofy, she's smart, and she gets flustered around Shepard sometimes, without spoilers, and as she comes back in Mass Effect 3, she also gets a little bit more confident there, which is nice. There's just so much fun about her. I don't really know how much more I can add on to Mass Effect 2. Is that she's one of my favorite characters. I do think it does have one of the most tender moments, I think, in Mass Effect 2. And this is whether you romance her or not. It really doesn't matter. I always do this option where whenever you're playing through her loyalty mission and they find her father's body and she just starts breaking down, and you take the Paragon action, hopefully you do this, and you hug her.
If you don't, you're a monster.
Oh, you're a terrible person if you don't hug her.
It's a part that catches you off guard first time playing through, because you kind of Tali talks a lot about her dad in the first game, and she talks about him a bit in the second game too before this. And so you get this thing built up in your head okay, obviously the game's building up that one day we're going to meet Tali's dad, and you're on this ship and you're hoping to do this, and the signs are pointing towards hey, he probably didn't survive, but you're just telling, you're I'm hoping he's okay. And whenever it drops that ball on you, it's not even the fact that it's not only that this person's dead, but it's what it immediately does to Tali that's just so devastating. And just in a game that's all about shooting up the evil robot aliens and saving the galaxy, there's just this really just very intimate moment where she's just breaking down and Shepard's hey, it's okay, I'm gonna hug you. And it's such an emotionally devastating moment to see someone that you really like go through that. And it's damn, that's, I think when I first started playing through Mass Effect, it was that scene that solidified that I was in love with the series. Even after going through all the stuff in Mass Effect 1, that was the scene. So That's pretty much all I have to say about Tali is like that moment, because I gotta save the rest for Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, fair. Okay. Then in keeping with that, and in keeping with continuing moving forward, let's go to another alien. And this is essentially because, unfortunately, as much as Rex is the best character from 1, unfortunately he does not return. Well, he returns, but he is not your squad mate. Instead, you
He's doing other shit. He's busy.
He's busy. He's doing really cool, and it relates to this character, the Krogan berserker you get, which is Grunt, and is essentially your Krogan substitute for Garras. And while I like Grunt, he's cool, and I tried to keep him on my squad for a little bit, he's not Rex, and I think that's Grunt's biggest problem. And I think this is really unfortunate for him. And that's probably just my thing. It might just be a personal thing. But I just didn't find him super interesting. Because while Rex is a war torn, like he's been doing this, I've been doing this for too long, like type guy. Grunt is the opposite. He is literally new to the world. He was genetically made to be like, I am the perfect Krogan. I am like as pure can get. I was made in a lab. And he just kind of is just like another Krogan. He's angry and he likes fighting, and that's fun sometimes. But it's one of those things where I'm like, you had such an interesting story with Rex. And his loyalty mission includes Rex, because you see where Rex ends up, and I'll let you guys talk about that. But at least for Grunt, it was one of those things like I liked him. He's okay, but he's probably very middle of like if I was ranking these guys of just like one of your like better squad. I mean, he's not one of my favorites. He's not super high up there. He's not one of my least favorites. I don't dislike him, but he's just kind of okay. He's just not Rex is my biggest issue with him.
Unfortunately for him, he did have to walk into a role that has big shoes to fill, and it's literally, you're right. It's literally a character that's going from, hey, this character has the most experience out of everybody. He's seen everything, to the character that's kind of supposed to be sort of his replacement is a character who is like, I'm built to be perfect, but I have no experience in any of this. It's like, it's hard shoes to fill.
Yeah. Randy, what are your thoughts on Grunt?
I could definitely see that to where people were going along the lines of that. You're no Rex.
Yeah.
But I do find parts of his story to be interesting, and just how he kind of is frustrated with, like, I think he calls it a tank mother or something like that.
Yeah. Like tank born.
Basically, shows me these images of what I'm supposed to feel and whatnot, and it's just like I have all this rage, but I don't know like where to put it, and like things like that. And I mean, could that be like really any Krogan or like new Krogan? I suppose. But I don't know, seeing him develop, and I did like his loyalty mission of going to Tachanka and pretty much learning more about Krogan culture, in particular, basically when a Krogan becomes like old enough to like fight and battle and whatnot, they go through this trial, and basically be like proof that I'm strong. I can I can fend for myself, type of situation. And I think he does have some funny lines, particularly when you have some like one-on-one conversations with him, where he's just like, I don't know, kind of like just this innocent, because he's basically a newborn, this innocent child.
Innocent for a Krogan.
Yeah, he's still very much like his first option is bloodshed.
Yes, but
I
don't know. He has just
that's normal.
That's
normal.
That's
Krogan. That's normal.
And
everyone
toddlers
at your age feels like that.
Yeah. But yeah, I like him. I agree with Miranda. He actually has one of my favorite loyalty missions. I did like the trial that he went through, and the big standout. I like that you get to see that Rex is now the Krogan leader. And you see what Rex did if you didn't shoot him, like a madman if you did shoot him. That he's now like, I'm in charge of this planet, and I'm trying to like get these Krogan clans to work together and like find some sort of peace. It's kind of more put together right now, and it's more just peace because they can't. If one starts a war, the others will destroy them. So it's essentially like the mad theory. If everyone has a weapon, no one's going to fire one. So it's not a perfect system, but you see that Rex is like trying to apply the lessons that he learned in one, and it's really cool seeing Rex as like the Krogan leader. And another like fun thing about Grunt that I should point out, he is voiced by the guy that voices every character and some of my favorite characters, Steve Blum. So
Oh yeah,
good on him. So yeah, that's.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was gonna bring that up. I do want to throw my hat in the ring about like Grunt and say that like I really like him. You're right, he's no Rex, but I think he's fun in his own way. Once again, this is one of the things is like wait till Mass Effect 3. But I do like you kind of get this dynamic a bit in Mass Effect 2, especially with his loyalty mission, but they kind of crank it up a little bit more in Mass Effect 3. Grunt is basically Shepard's unruly child. And I kind of like that dynamic. It's Grunt is like, don't talk to me or my son ever again. It is like that meme.
That's a fun dynamic. I never saw it like that. But yeah, keeping moving forward, and I think it's appropriate now to talk about technically the first DLC character you meet. You literally like it's very hard to avoid him. In my like at least for me, he was like the first one I saw. And that is Zaeed. He is this mercenary, and he's all about like, I'm just in it for the money and doing it for the job, yada, 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 that kind of voice. And like Randy said, he's got some like fun aesthetics, but at least compared to the other two DLCs that characters that you're allowed to have, he's the weakest of the three. And so he's kind of this thing of like, I guess, also keeping the theme with Grunt, he was also kind of meant to be the Rex's replacement in the sense of like, he's the grungy, I've been doing this for too long type character. But it always just felt like, again, Rex light. And he never really stood out to me that much. His loyalty mission, which again is a DLC mission, which the others are so like cool and amazing, and we'll talk about the DLCs later, but he's just kind of, I don't know, it felt flat to me. Maybe you guys disagree.
I'll speak up first on this.
Yeah.
Not really. No, I don't disagree. I think Zaeed you get everything you get with Zaeed is right there on the tin. He is a grizzled old mercenary, and that's all he is. I think he has a couple of fun lines. I do like his voice acting. I think the voice actor did what he could at the time, which unfortunately I can't remember, but like the voice actor for Zaeed did pass away a few years after Mass Effect 2. I think he did. I think he does a good job voicing him. I do like the gruffness of it. Mm-hmm. And like the weird accent that he puts on. I can't really quite put down what it's
I was also like, is he Scottish? Is he?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's like space British.
Yeah, I was like, what are you, Australian? I couldn't get it.
Australia. I can't get it, but I think he has some fun lines, but it's another one of those things where on top of them of just being kind of a boring character archetype. Well, not boring. It's just like it's a character archetype we've seen before and done better, a la with Rex. Like it's a character archetype we've seen done before, and there's just not that much interesting about him. His loyalty mission is fine. You're basically it's a big shootout in a factory. Yeah, I do. The one thing I do like about that loyalty mission is it is one of those tough ones where doing the morally right thing, if you don't have enough, like, I guess, Paragon points, if you don't have enough Paragon points, you could lose his loyalty by doing the right thing, which is like saving the factory workers versus going after like the dude he has like a vendetta against.
Yeah.
So that's kind of an interesting dilemma. But other than that, because essentially you're making a choice of like, do I save these people because it's the right thing to do and give up on the chance that he's very likely won't survive the suicide mission, or do I go through with this?
I'm very glad I had a lot of Paragon when I did hit, because I did a Paragon run. I'm glad I did it for two reasons. One, A, because it made him survive. Spoilers for my playthrough, but B, the one thing I'll give Zaeed is he actually came in clutch during the suicide mission, because I didn't want to send anyone away when they're like, we have to keep one person with the crew, and I knew that like they need someone or else they'll all die. So I was like, I guess Zaeed, like if I lose him, I'll be okay. But he pulled through because I had enough Paragon and he saved everyone on the crew, including himself. So I'll give him props for that. He helped out. He helped out a lot during the last mission.
That's good. Yeah.
So.
Zaeed's all right. But like honestly, if this was back in the old days when it cost like 5 or 10, I can't remember how much it cost to get him as a DLC in Mass Effect 2 originally, before it was bundled with this edition.
Yeah.
But if it's like, oh, do you want to spend $10 for this character? I'd be like, no, thank you. That's too much.
That's fair. Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah, I think he's a character that you can. He's fun, and I think, because especially now, pretty much the way to play Mass Effect is you buy the Legendary Edition, and so, like, he's in it anyway. So, you shouldn't just skip out on the mission for no reason. You should check it out, obviously, because, I mean, you already bought it. He's there anyway.
Yeah, he's there. And I'm pretty sure, like, you can't avoid him. Like, I remember, like, when I started out the game, he was, like, the first person I met. Like, I just walked through a tunnel, and he's like, what's up? I'm Zaeed. I'm also working for him. Like, okay, cool. I'll replace Jacob, at least. But then he got replaced the second I got a different character.
Yeah, I mean, you can avoid him in regards to, like, you can even not do his loyalty mission and stuff like that. Yeah. You can pretty much recruit him, like, from that initial when you run into him, and then never talk to him since. How do I know that? That's exactly what Will did. Will did not care for either of the DLC characters. I don't know why.
Aww.
I told him, like, no, they're fun. Just go do their missions.
Dang.
Or at least go talk to him a little.
Dang.
Because I think, like, Zaeed has some fun stuff, and just, like, I don't know, he's definitely just this grizzled mercenary, which, like, if that's what you're looking for, then yeah. And it's just, like, I don't know, it's just very much kind of like a kiss my ass, it's like type of attitude or whatever. And so I think he's fun. But I mean, he is kind of that one note of just like, I'm an old mercenary. I've been doing this for too long. Kiss my ass. Fuck you, Shepard. You didn't let me go kill that guy.
I'm like,
you didn't let me kill that guy. Fuck you.
Fuck you, Shepard. His voice is fun to do, and that's the best part about him. But
I'm probably doing a terrible rendition, but whatever.
No one knows what his accent is.
His accent's so weird. I think we'll forgive you on this one, Randy.
Yeah. Like, you get up ass. Dang. We'll come back to the DLC thing on a different character, but I'll keep trying to switch it around. I didn't just knock over a chair. Anyway, let's do another alien and another newcomer. One that I feel like kind of gets forgotten about. At least, like, I don't hear a lot talk about him, but I thought he was super cool. Maybe it's just because, like, I'm not in the big Mass Effect community. But Thane was...
Oh, people love Thane.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I don't know what corner of the Mass Effect fandom you've seen, but Thane is like... He's like Mordin and Rex. Like, he's up there. Like, people love Thane.
I also love Thane.
It's like Mordin, Rex, Thane.
Yeah. Maybe I just haven't seen it, because again, coming into the game late. But Thane's great. Thane, good thing I looked. Apparently a possible room. Oh, for female Shepard. Okay, I thought that was for male Shepard. I was like, whoa, progressive Mass Effect 2, but no, that doesn't happen until 30. Anyway, Thane, super interesting character, an assassin. You finally get to meet a Drell and get to learn more about the Drell, this species that has basically or basically perfect memory. And not only that, but anytime they literally relive a memory to like the emotions, to everything, that so they're almost like living all those moments again all the time. It's a really interesting character, but has a super interesting story just about his wife, who saved someone else from assassination and was the first one to kind of like teach him humanity. But she passed away, and then he went back into Sun on the Ground. Now he has to kind of reconnect with his son. And just a really interesting person to talk to, like going down. And he always has very interesting stories to tell, and like background. His background is probably, other than Mordin, yeah, probably one of my favorite newcomers. And I imagine you guys have similar thoughts. I'll start with Randy this time because I feel like I've started with Seth a couple of times.
Yeah, talking about Thane, he's up there in regards to one of the better characters that people put up on like their lists of favorite characters from this game. I think some of that can be just like, it's cool. This is the first time we have like an assassin that's more like, instead of, oh, I'm gonna shoot you with a sniper rifle from across the building or whatever, I'm gonna infiltrate into your base, like come through the vents basically, and drop to the ground and get personal with it.
Does he still use a sniper? Like, wait.
He does.
Yeah.
It's one of his weapons, but I'm just talking like in particular when you get first introduced to him. That's literally what happens, is he basically infiltrates the building, comes through the vents, and gets personal with his target.
In the cutscenes, he's like a damn Metal Gear Solid character.
Yeah.
He's doing some crazy shit.
He's super cool.
It's super cool. And so I think that has definitely something to do with it, of just because I think most characters are just like, firing weapons and whatnot. And while he's, I think, one of the few characters we have that gets uses stealth and gets up close and personal with his targets. But regardless of just the cool factor, as you talked about, Drew, about his personal story with his wife passing, and then trying to reconnect with his son and stop his son from following down the same path he is on, because he's basically was trained to be an assassin since he was 6 years old. And I forget exactly how long the Drell live generally and how old he is. But
don't they like live like 200 or something? Like, they're pretty old.
Their lifespans are kind of comparable to humans. The problem with Thane is he has Kepler syndrome in this universe, and that's basically because the Drell are like more of a aquatic type race. They can't be. I might have it the other way around, but they can't be in like. They have to be more humid places. If they're not, it kind of like causes issues with their breathing. Yeah. And because he has Kepler syndrome, and spoiler for Mass Effect 2, kind of Thane's deal is he has a terminal case of Kepler syndrome. He's not long for this world. That's why he's so focused on trying to fix things.
Yeah. But regardless, he's been in this fight since I was 6 years old, to quote Andor. Anyway.
Yeah.
Trying to stop his son from going down that same path, being like, look, I did this because it was what I was trained to do. And he's not an assassin that really takes pleasure in his work by any means. It's something he's good at, and so he does it.
Well, his mindset is always, he's just like, I'm a tool. I didn't kill that person. Someone put a hit out, so that person should feel guilty. And he's always so like, he doesn't really feel much about it, except the one time when he went after like the people that killed his wife. That was personal, and that was the only time where he didn't kill them quickly. He like lingered it, and he made it suffer. So
yeah. But I mean, even then, like, it's interesting to have someone who's, even then, like, he's very like spiritual with it, which is interesting as well. Of being like, after he has that where you meet him, he takes down basically his target right in front of you.
Yeah.
and he's like stopping, he's like saying a prayer, and you go to interrupt him, and he's like, please wait, saying a prayer for the wicked or whatnot, and you pretty much say, do you think she really deserved it, the target he just killed? He's like, oh, not for her, but for me. So it's just, I don't know, it's interesting to see like an assassin that's spiritual with being like, I know what I'm doing, and like I'm detached from it, but also trying to say these prayers to being like, what I did is, I guess, trying to reconcile with himself of being like, I know what I did, but I was ordered to do it, and this person was genuinely a terrible person. And thus it is just.
I forgot about that line. That's such an edgy line, but also in the same minute, that's so cool. I don't know, like that, like if I played this game when I was like 16, I would be like, that's the coolest fucking character I've ever seen.
And I'm sure that happened for some people.
Oh yeah, I guarantee.
I'm sure that led to part of the reason why he's on some of people's higher end of the list. It's this cool assassin dude. He says cool lines, but he also has this like heartbreaking backstory.
I said
so
a prayer for the wicked.
Together, and boom, you got a good character.
I said a prayer for the wicked. Do you think they deserve that? Not them, me. I was like, oh my god, so edgy. It's so cool. Seth, sorry. What are your thoughts on?
I mean, like, he pulls it off, and I think it, like I said, it speaks to his character, where his relationship with his job essentially is very complex. Like, it's like, does he feel guilty about it? It's kind of hard to tell, but he at least is cognizant of it enough to be like, I don't want my son to follow in this path. So it's one of those things where, like, you can read into it multiple ways if you wish. Is he just being a badass, or is he like reckoning with this? That's a cool line. I do love Thane. He is also, I mean, in a series that is packed full of my favorite characters in gaming, he's definitely like up there at the top for me. Just because like his story is so well done. I love his voice actor. I can't think of his name, but he does such a good job with it. Like, you really feel all, like, for a character that's supposed to like suppress and put down his emotions, there's these little twinges and stuff that you could definitely feel it coming through, and it's hard to pin down how, but it works.
The guy's name, by the way, is Keith Farley or Fairley.
I need to look up more of his stuff because hot damn, he does a good job with Thane.
He's a very good job.
Thane, I find a lot of admiration for Thane, for like, you know, like his character is like, yeah, like he does awful things. He knows he does awful things. And in a weird way, he is trying to atone for his sins. And more importantly to him, he's wanting to make sure that his own sins don't get passed on to his son. He has my favorite loyalty mission in the game, which is funny because it's a loyalty mission that has no combat whatsoever. It is all just talking with characters, but it is just about him stopping his son from taking another person's life.
That's another thing I realized when playing like Thane. Despite him being an assassin, his mission is not about killing someone. His mission is the only one where you don't kill anyone during Thane's mission. It's an interesting dynamic.
It's so well done, and I love Thane. I remember first time playing through Legendary Edition when this was all re-released. It's like, man, I haven't played Mass Effect in a while. I can't wait to hop back into it. I was playing through Mass Effect 2, and I made more of an effort to talk with more of my crewmates, especially with Thane. And I can't remember. I think it was the way he was talking about like his memory of like his family. But there was, I wish I could remember because it's been a while, but there was a moment where like it was just so well done that I literally started tearing up during it because I was like, fuck, man. Like that really hit me hard. The way he talked about how he sees that what he did to his family, like he recognizes his mistake is like, I got wrapped up in my work and I sort of left my family down. I don't know, like how, you know, with Thane's story goes, it's so heartbreaking. And I love that dude. He's one of my favorite characters. It's another one where I'm like, I can't wait till we get to Mass Effect 3 to talk about where his story goes, because it's great.
Eventually. But yeah, that's a lot on Thane. and we probably do need to pick up the pace. This might be a two-parter, but that's fine. I expected this one to be long, especially of how we're doing this.
You chose to talk about all the crew.
Well, because like,
a lot.
Well, could we do it any other way?
That's fair.
Because like, if we did it, then we would miss out on a lot of them, and like, they are the main part of this game. And I guess we'll talk about another returning character, and another one of our favorites. No surprise that, and this is probably another reason why he's so many people's fan favorites. It's Garras again. He's back.
I believe you mean Archangel.
Yes, Archangel. Also, incredibly edgy name. Would have loved that name when I was 16. But yeah, Garras is back. Garras is still doing Garras things. Except this time, now his story, I think Randy mentioned it earlier, is he had a squad and they were all betrayed, and now he is out for vengeance against this other
Adonis.
Yeah, thank you.
It's another term.
A bit more. It's Garras, and he's still a bro, but a bit more edgier. He's definitely
he is.
He's a lot edgier. And at least for me, even though despite me playing a Paragon throughout like this whole like game, this was the one moment where I kind of went Renegade, which I think this is the Renegade option, which is just like, yeah, I'll let Garras take the shot. Because I don't know, at least for me at this moment, like, I have no reason to not shoot this man. I've shot plenty of people, and Garras thinks he's evil. So I was just like, yeah, Garras, go ahead. Like, I have like half the team is assassins. You might as well do one too. Part of me wishes I didn't, because I think it's a better character moment if I were to like talk to Garras after the fact of just like, oh, it'll consume you, whatever, blah blah blah. But I didn't. That guy's dead. But yeah, Garras is still like, he's still a bro. He was the other one that's like, he was on my team 90% of the time. There's a story with when I probably shouldn't have had him on my team at one moment, but we'll save that for a different character. But yeah, love him in 1, love him in 2, still great. Randy, how do you feel about Garras in 2? Or Archangel?
Still love him.
Yeah.
So you get with that loyalty mission, depending on what you do. So if you do the opposite of what Drew did,
yeah,
you end up kind of furthering down his development of being like, think through a bit more of what you're doing in regards to when you're bringing these criminals in, and like there needs to be actual like justice and not just execution, because there was basically, because at the end or at the beginning of 2, you die, the Normandy crew gets separated. He ends up at Omega, which is this I guess planet or asteroid, or what is it exactly?
A rock in space.
It's a big rock in space.
It is if I remember correctly, it is a former mining space station. That's why it's built into this asteroid belt. That's basically being turned into like the outlaw version of the Citadel.
Yeah, in essence. So he ends up going there, and because it is like the outlaw version of the Citadel, there's so many, smugglers, mercenaries, thugs, and whatnot. And so he just pretty much goes there and just starts offing like mercenaries and whatnot. And like you kind of, one of the options you'd be like, you sound like you're just another like rival gang. And he's like, no, we never beat up or shook down any civilians or anything like that. Only pretty much gangs. So
yeah.
Was he doing good? Probably. At the same time, though, it kind
still
of goes
murder.
Yeah, you're kind of just going on like a murder spree.
It's the
in essence.
For anyone that
is it maybe necessary for that type of area in this like crazy other universe? Maybe. So that kind of gives you that that kind of moral dilemma of being like, well, if I don't stop them, who will? This is Omega. They're basically untouchable here.
Yeah.
Things of that nature.
it's
So yeah, but going down his like loyalty mission and whatnot is basically Sedonis, like he admits to you that if I remember correctly, that like he regrets what happened and things like that.
yeah, I didn't talk. Unfortunately, I didn't talk to him for that long. Maybe I should have.
Yeah, he basically is like, yeah, like I feel awful about what happened, and there hasn't been a day that's gone by since that I haven't regretted this and whatnot. And he's just like, I'm just not man enough to like find Garras and admit this to him and whatnot. So he's like already the shell of a human being.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think probably the quote that what I was thinking. If you ever watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the exact quote is, "Cool motive, bro. Still murder," because it's a cop show. And yeah, that's pretty much like Garrus' whole thing of just like he's cool, but also like he is still just out murdering people. That is kind of one of my regrets. Another thing with like when I was playing, at least through Mass Effect 2, my mindset was like, even if I make a mistake, I don't want to like. I want to try to avoid reloading it and just getting the perfect run. Or like I'll try to live with my mistakes.
As you should. Whenever anyone plays through these trilogies of games, make your instinctual decisions and just go from there.
Yeah.
That is the best way to play the game.
And that's kind of one of the things of just like, yeah, I like Garras, shoot him. And looking back, it's like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have like stopped him or like tried to like hear the other guy out. But I didn't, and the guy's dead. And now Garras is a little bit more murder hungry, but it's fine. We'll deal with those issues in 3. Seth, Garras.
I mean, listen,
in 2.
It just adds it just adds a little bit more flavoring to your playthrough. That's all. It's a little extra spice. Garras might be a little bit more hardened when he gets into Mass Effect 3. Hey, that might be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think I personally can add anything to Garras other than what you guys have already said. He's an excellent character. I like the arc that they go with. It's more of it's a logical step of where he was in the first Mass Effect, moving to this, and I like that he stepped up into more of a leadership role.
Yeah,
I will. So instead of me trying to give my opinion on Garras, I feel like I'd be remiss not to talk about one of my friends who loves Garras. And that's Alex. She's one of my best friends. We talk about Mass Effect all the time. The way I really love Tali's character is the same way she loves Garras. And honestly, I've seen his romance. I didn't play through it myself, but I did look it up. I completely get it. I completely get it.
So good.
It is. It's really good. Plus, for a guy who talked up how smooth he was with getting with this one Tyrian chick in Mass Effect 2, like oh, we were at CSEC training. She had stamina, I had reach or whatever. For a guy that talks a lot of game like that, he's actually he's such
a dork. I love him.
And I really love that about his character. So you know what? Like, I completely get it. I'm like, yeah, honestly, if I did it too, I would also put Garrus's romance at the top there. Yeah. Like up there is like the cream of the cream. Like,
I guess
you want to do.
I didn't bring that up on my. I've played through the game twice. I played through once as male Shep Paragon, once as through the entire trilogy. Once as female Shepard Renegade, and as my female run, I romanced romanced Garras, and I was just like, yes, this is great, and I wish you could kind of that you could romance him as a guy, but you know, whatever. It was 2010, so yeah.
Yeah, I really think it's disappointing that you can't romance Tali as a girl either. Like, I really don't see a reason why you couldn't.
Because there actually are like other like lesbian options, if I'm not mistaken, into, but not gay. Am I?
Pretty much. Like, I don't think there's a single gay option in 2. Like, if you're a guy and you're wanting to romance another guy, you can't do that in 2. I think you can't romance a single.
You can't romance Zaeed? What? No, I'm joking.
You can't romance like any like as a guy with another guy until 3. And I think even then you have 2 options and that's it. So
Yeah, it's unfortunate, especially since like kind of really up until Mass Effect 3, hell, it might even also be in Mass Effect 3. Liara is really the only kind of like buy option that you have.
Yeah.
Which is a shame because it's like, don't get me wrong, what Mass Effect did was pretty dang progressive, especially since it was enough to get Fox News' attention and yell about that. I don't know if anyone remembers that. But I think it's a bit of I do think it's a shame and a bit of a double standard where I'm not trying to put down, lesbians. Like I think they're like, I'm not trying to put them down, but I do think that there was more favoritism played maybe towards that end rather than male on male relationships. I just don't think it got represented as much in these earlier titles.
Yeah.
BioWare does get better about this afterwards. This is just random bullshit, but a year after Mass Effect 2 comes out, Dragon Age 2 comes out, and it comes out with mixed results, but it does provide way more like male on male relationships, which is very nice. It's showing that BioWare is moving in the right direction. By the time we get to 3, we do get more options. It's kind of a shame that it's not here. Some of the theories I've heard is that in Mass Effect 1, Kaidan was supposed to be a romance option also for a male shepherd, but they cut that.
Wouldn't
surprise me.
Yeah.
Because I think I heard that even like some of the developers and writers wanted to make more options like that, but then basically they were forced to like have to cut them because they were like, we can't have that in the game. It's gonna ruin our sales or whatever. And I think it can be, at least from my perspective, is that sometimes like from the straight audience or whatever can find guy on guy, ew, gross, disgusting, would never. Girl on girl, now that's hot. So maybe that's why they're like, oh, we can get away with this, but we can't do that.
And to be fair, I mean, okay, I'm not excusing their actions. Like, no way. If Kaidan was supposed to be a romanceable option for a male shepherd, they should have just kept it in. But in a sense, what they said was kind of right. For just having the Liara and a female shepherd romance, they did get flack from that from Fox News. But you know what? So fucking what? Let it come. Let them get mad about the gay relationships. That's all they do anyways.
Yeah.
So like I really think that it's a shame that they didn't include more options. I do think BioWare is at least one of the more mainstream developers that's being more progressive than a lot of other studios were at the time, but that still doesn't mean you could have done more back then. But that's hindsight stuff.
Yeah,
so that's here nor there. Let's continue on.
I'm about to say we've been doing this for a while. Like, I don't mean to rush you guys. It's an important topic, but also, there's a lot of more characters. So because there's no transition from that conversation to the next one, Samara, the other
sorry matriarch.
Yeah, and you learn
it's not a sorry matriarch. A sorry Justicar.
Justicar. No, you're fine.
She's like a superhero.
Yeah, she's a
superhero landing. If I remember correctly,
she does. She's super badass.
She is super cool. Randy, can you tell me what Will described her as? Because I think it really describes her better.
Because so basically you first meet her, she's beating up this, I think his Black Suns mercenary, or maybe his Blue Suns, yeah. And basically she's like, you're going to tell me the name of that ship that my target got away on. And she's like, I'm not going to tell you anything. And she pretty much presses her heel and steps on her throat. And Will just goes, mommy.
And that's a good way to describe her. Yeah. And she also is
wearing basically, she is a mother.
Yeah.
But she's also like, of course, because it's females in video games, they put her in like super skin tight, basically outfit with like a V-neck going on. Like a triple V-neck.
Like they know what they were doing. Like
they knew what they were doing.
They knew what they were doing. I'm not gonna lie. We all knew.
But yeah, she's like an amazing like superhero who lives by this this code, and like everyone's like, sorry, Justicars? dude, you do not want to fuck with them.
Yeah, nah.
Like, they will fuck you up.
And
it's true. Like,
yeah.
she's one of the most powerful biotics on your team that you can have.
Yeah. So, a little story behind that. Because also, I should point out, because technically, you can have either her or her daughter. Mordin. If you just, for some reason, are a terrible person, and like, when you get to, her loyalty mission, just be like, hey, you know what? Screw you, and kill your own squad mate and take her. The Mordin's kind of whole thing is like, I like death and destruction, even though like but she's born like that. But I want to talk about a little story with Samara, because when I played through, there were 2 characters that died in my initial playthrough. Even though I got everyone's loyalty, I made a couple bad decisions during the suicide run, and part of me blames Samara for this, but I realize why this happens. We'll get on the suicide run later, so we don't have to describe the whole mechanics. But there's one moment where you need to pick a person to lead Squad B. I should have picked Garras, and I understand Garras is the correct choice, but I chose Samara. And Samara allowed one of her teammates to die. It wasn't her. She makes it to Mass Effect 3 in my playthrough, but someone else doesn't. It might be the next person we talk about, but I don't know. That'll probably be the last person we talk about, because that's the last squad mate you get. But that's one member that unfortunately didn't make it. But other than that, she did help out when like I had to pick someone to like be a shield against like the swarm, which is another part of the suicide run. So I really liked her character. She's definitely a better representation than Liara for the Asari. At least in Liara in 1. We'll talk about Liara later. But I liked having her, and yeah, she's cool, badass, and I think her story with like her children essentially like can't reproduce or else they'll just kill their mate is very interesting, especially since up until this point, literally majority of the lore behind the Asari is about how they can just procreate with everyone, and that's just what they like to do. So it's interesting.
Well, it's also to help with diversity and greater knowledge, because basically it's the opposite of being like, if 2 Asari were to mate, it's kind of being called a pureblood, which is kind of a slur if you're an Asari pureblood, because it's seen as nothing is gained. But if you mate with something of another species, better like genetic diversity and like knowledge of other cultures and understanding is gained. So it benefits.
Let's call them what they are.
Yeah.
Okay.
It benefits the Asari overall.
Yeah. Anyway, Seth, your thoughts on the Justicar, Samara?
Yeah. I like her. I think she's a really fun character. I think it's one of those things where she kind of opens up a whole aspect about like Asari culture that we didn't know about. And I don't know, man. She's kind of like a much more brutal version of like, I guess, Wonder Woman in space or something.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can like think of it off the top of my head. Like, she really just does feel like a freaking superhero.
And just like the way that like they talk about it too, especially, it's like, yeah, I see it.
Yeah, like they hype up like her abilities are like even beyond like other Asari, which they're already innately gifted with biotics. I think she's a lot of fun as like a character. She's one that has like a great recruitment mission, a really great loyalty mission, because basically her, like, you know, we talk about with Mordin, but like how her loyalty mission feels like is you're basically like trying to investigate and then basically lure out a serial killer, which is kind of cool. Like it's a space age serial killer story. It's like, all right, that's really neat. There's not much I can add for her. Like I've always enjoyed her as a character, but she's never was one of my personal favorites. But I think she's cool.
Yeah.
I did learn one interesting thing though. She can't be romanced because part of the Asari Justicar code is you're not supposed to have relationships like that with anyone. So she can't romance it, but apparently as Shepard, you can still try to pursue it. She just won't reciprocate it.
Yeah.
She'll be like, yeah, that's cool, dude. I'm not down for it. My code says no.
Dang. Always
Appreciate
unfortunate.
you, but no.
Yeah. Always unfortunate. That was a sad thing to learn about. Especially given her character design. Right? Randy, any other thoughts about Samara before we move on?
No, I think we summed it up pretty well.
Yeah. Okay. Then I'm just gonna start going down the list. In my opinion, not my favorite DLC, but my favorite character to come out of the DLCs. Also in my opinion, my favorite human character that you're able to have on your squad, and that is Kasumi. Kasumi's like mission is so cool, and I thought her character was badass. I thought her gags are amazing. During her mission, you get probably my favorite weapon in the game, which is this SMG, which my friend, shout out to Doster. My friend Doster told me about the lore behind it. It is the gun that killed 2 presidents because it killed the president, and then immediately after shot the vice president. Because of the way American works, it technically is the gun that killed 2 presidents. And I think she says, she's like, when you first pick it up, she says it's the gun that killed 2 presidents. Anyway, weird story about that weapon aside. It's the best SMG in the game, and I love it. But also, her character is just so much fun. Her loyalty mission is great because it's a DLC, so obviously it's going to be better. I really wish she was a romance option too, but unfortunately, because she's a DLC, she's not, and it sucks. But she was also one that was on the squad a lot. I loved her Shadow Strike ability and going invisible and just slapping someone in the back of the head. And yeah, I just loved her. One of the most badass moments, like, at least like that a DLC character did, is when she took down a plane basically by herself by jumping on top of it. And
I'm so disappointed Will didn't play that DLC.
Yeah, and that's the other thing when you said, like, I didn't play the DLC. I was like, but Kasumi!
I mean, I played it. I played it both times.
I mean, I know you did, but Will should have been like, but she's so cool. And yeah, that's unfortunate.
I don't know. Maybe I could convince, like, we just started Mass Effect 3. It's like, we're not even, I think, we're past the prologue, basically.
I would tell him, like, hey,
so
go
I might
back.
just be like, Will, you have to play it.
I would just, like, go back. It's worth it. At least she's worth it. She's a fun story.
It's a really good, plus like, it's a really good mission. Like the fact that like it is basically a space heist, it's freaking cool. I like all the little steps you have to go through to, like, it's sort of like a little adventure game where you're putting together all these little puzzles of like how to get past this really advanced like vault. It's super fun. One thing I will disagree with you on, Drew, though, I'm kind of glad you can't romance Kasumi. Now, granted, it probably is a limitation of the DLC, but I feel like her story kind of makes me feel like it'd be weird to try to romance her right now.
I guess, fair, yeah. Because her whole thing is about, like, the memories of her, essentially, they don't necessarily say boyfriend, but basically boyfriend.
There's a whole flashback scene where like she gets on top of him on a bed. So it's like, yeah.
Okay, no, yeah. They were very much a relationship. But doesn't change how my heart feels, Seth, all right?
Yeah. I mean, you could be like the like Samara simps out there who keep romancing her even though they know they won't get anything in return. Okay, I kind of lied about that. Actually, I think if you keep it up even into Mass Effect 3, she does give Shepard like a peck on the cheek if you're persistent. Yeah. And that's it.
Mommy pecked me on the cheek. Oh, yes. Yeah, but I like Kasumi. Is there, from either of you, anything else? Any hard? I know I talked a lot about her. Any other opinions about Kasumi?
I like her. I mean, you already mentioned about her Shadow Strike ability, which I think is like, it's really fun, and it's fun to see in action during combat and whatnot, and like having her mission be basically like a space heist, a little heist mission. And I like all of her, like, she has little like things if you do go talk to her about like because she's a master thief, so she kind of like tells you these stories about how she got this, this artifact, that artifact. This is a time I was almost caught or whatever. She's just like a little book nerd too, which is cool.
She's a fun character to go back and talk to. Just like she kind of
even though like you can't really have like dialogue back and forth, you just kind of click and she says stuff. But
I feel like the limitations of the DLC characters is felt especially here. Kasumi would probably be much higher on my list of like favorite characters if she could interact with the other crewmates and talk more with Shepard, like outside of her mission.
There's a very
like that is the one thing that's holding it back.
Yeah. I still like her. For me, she's like pretty high on my list. Like she's not like my very favorite, but she's pretty high. But that said, moving along. This one is I'll definitely a lot of people are disappointed in me about this one. And it's Jack. Jack is a bionic, yeah. Jack is a bionic, and she is she's definitely an interesting character. She's like a huge powerhouse bionic, like was tested on, and had all these experiments on her, and you found her in basically a tube. And her like intro, like when you first find her, is a very fun mission. But I feel like I should address the elephant at the room.
Pretty much Prison Break.
Yeah, it's a Prison Break. But the issue with me is Jack, unfortunately, is one of the characters that did not survive my first playthrough. Because I made the mistake. When I first did her loyalty mission, which is a good mission, her and Maranda got in a fight, and I went with Maranda. And unfortunately, I feel like either way you have to talk to her after the fact, but unfortunately, at the time of doing the mission, I did not have enough Paragon points, and definitely not enough Renegade, because I didn't do many options of that, to like tell her to get over it, or to like get her back. And so I'm like, okay, I'll come back to this whenever I'm done. I forgot to do that, because she's like in the bottom of the cargo. Like it's hard, like you have to go around a lot of people to find her. And I forgot that I didn't technically finish the loyalty mission with her. So after the suicide run, when everything's good, at one point she's like, all right. They're like, all right, everyone's like back of the ship, we're good. And then there's just one quick shot of Jack just dead on the floor. And I'm like, what? And that was like the most like, dang it. And I remembered, I was like, shoot, I forgot to talk to her again about that. Which again, is my fault. I'll live with my mistakes. But yeah, that is unfortunate, because a lot of people have said like Mass Effect 4 is like where she's like, her character goes amazing.
So one thing I do have to clarify with this, Drew, is like with that argument scene, that is your one chance. You can, once that's passed, you can't go back and try to talk to her again. Like it's over.
No, because there was another. Like, because there was a time.
You could.
Yeah, no, there's a time I went back and she's like, "What do you want?" And it was just a grayed out Paragon option. Because I went back after the fact, like midway through my playthrough, I'm like, "Oh dang, I still don't have enough."
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that before. In my experience, it's always been like, if you don't resolve it then it's over. It's done. But interesting. I didn't know about that. I wonder if that's a new edition with the Legendary Edition or not.
That might be. I don't know. But either way, I messed it up and she's dead for it. So, but yeah, Jack's actual character, guys. Randy, what are your thoughts on it? Because this is also one of Doster's favorite characters.
Yeah, she's pretty much this hard ass bitch, but like not in the same way where Miranda's a bitch, to where she's like annoying and like, I'm too good for everyone, or I'm perfect.
She's like, fuck you, I'm too good for everyone.
Yeah, she's like, fuck you, I'm too good.
Yeah.
And so
same sentence, different tone.
Same sentence, different tone. Thus, it's okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think it's instead of her being like, because Maranda and like, I think this works out really well. How they end up arguing is like they're kind of opposites in regards to characters. Like they're both, well, they're not both biotics. Miranda has some biotic abilities, but also tech abilities. I forget what that class is exactly called, but anyway. But basically, having them fight against each other of being like, we're both these strong-headed, like powerful female characters that basically one is like, Cerberus gave me a second chance and whatnot. And then you have Jack, who's like, Cerberus fucking tortured me. And I hate them. And I'm only doing this for Shepard and not for you, cheerleader. Cerberus cheerleader. And whatnot. And so I enjoy Jack that, and she gets better development if you don't pull a Drew and get her killed.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of things between 2 and 3. Is you'll have overarching development between games, which is really good to see and satisfying. Because you're like, man, I put in all this effort in 2, and I get to see it paid off. But
that would happen for me.
That's not going to happen for you. So
Jack's a goner.
Yeah, you learn about her loyalty mission, and you learn that maybe some of the things Jack was remembering weren't 100% true about having like, oh, all the kids hated me or whatnot, and just thinking like things like that. So I think just having her be this kind of like hard bitch that's like, I don't know, she's fun if you like actually start to kind of talk to her a little, and she's very upfront and blunt about because I remember Will maybe started to open the opportunity to maybe romance her. He ultimately chose Tali, but like there's multiple times where she's like, what is this about, Shepard? This is about sex? Because if it is, just fucking say so. And it's just like, oh.
Well, also like,
and she's like, I don't care about like this, that, or the other, like trying to get to know me. What are you gonna do? Ask me about my tattoos? Like, fuck off.
I mean, at least according to Dasha, she's one of the easier people to romance, or at least maybe not romance, but at least get in bed with.
Well, okay, so that's the thing. So actually, if you do take up her offer to just have sex with her, like right after her loyalty mission, you do still get her loyalty, but it locks you out of her actual romance path. She's like, all right, nothing else there. But if you choose not to go with that and then instead still try to like pursue that romance, but not initially like sleep with her, then you can see the romance through to completion. Yeah. It's one of the weird ones.
Interesting. But you know, she's not romancing anyone in my playthrough. Except maybe the dirt. Unfortunate. Anyway, any other things about Jack? I'm going to keep going.
Well, I mean, I really like Jack. I think she's a lot of fun as like a character. I do agree with Randy. I like her more than Miranda. Not that I hate Miranda. I just think that Jack is more fun and interesting. I think she has a really cool, tragic backstory, and it is neat that like a part of her loyalty mission is kind of figuring out, it's like, hey, maybe the way you remembered this traumatic shit, unfortunately, isn't quite the way it actually happened. I like her a lot as a character. And this is another one of those things where I liked her in Mass Effect 2, but I love her in Mass Effect 3 because where she gets to in that game, if she survives, is so appropriate for her character. And it's freaking just, damn it, Drew. Like, God. Like, you really fucked this up. Like, don't get me wrong. You need to play the way you want to and all that stuff. But man, you really fucked this up. But
look,
no,
if she was a good character, she wouldn't have fucking died. That seems like her issue.
If you were a good player, she would have survived.
I'm not playing as her. I never even had her on my squad at one point. She was with everyone else. That's her own damn fault. She never had any.
You were the one that made the choices, though. You said yourself you forgot to go talk with her.
Yeah, but like I didn't like make her do any special assignment. Her only job was like shoot people. Like you didn't have to lead a squad. You didn't have to do anything else. That's her own fault. That's the game. I'm gonna mute myself from guilt here. I'll look at my cutscene on what the story is and then feel bad about it after the fact. But anyway, that's another stuff. Fun. Seth is so. I think Seth is really pissed at me right now.
No, I'm here. I'm just like I don't know. I don't.
You just stop.
I really don't have anything more to add with Jack without spoiling stuff.
We'll definitely.
So,
I mean, we'll talk about it a lot. Like whenever we get to
We'll
3,
get
will
there.
be interesting when we talk about it. It's like,
yeah.
so
it's
guys, what
gonna
was
be
Jack
crazy
supposed to
to
do?
think-
Is basically will be the question.
Yeah, like, and that's the interesting. It's like, well, Drew, if you would have kept her alive, this is what would have happened. You know,
Like,
da-da-da-da.
damn, that's interesting. Too bad. So let's keep going because we got 2 more characters. I believe I haven't skipped anyone. Yeah, we got 2 more, and there's gonna be another one that Randy will be pissed at me for. But before we get onto that, let's get on to one character that technically can be on your squad, but or at the very least, you will have her on your squad for a mission. This is the last of the DLC missions, and probably at least story-wise, one of the better ones, and that's the Shadow Broker DLC, where you can you get Liara on your team again, and she can be a romance option if she was your romance option in the first game. Shadow Broker DLC is a lot better, and it does a lot for Liara's character, and she actually feels like a character in this game. She's not just horny for Shepard again. She still is, but she has a little bit more behind her. She's in charge of this tech company. She's really intertwined with the whole Shadow Broker. It has a really fun boss fight towards the end. And also, like, leading up to that boss fight, she has a lot of back and forth, like joking, like kind of flirting, but also kind of like back and forth, like with Shepard. So I like her a lot more into. I think her character definitely improves a lot. I don't know if it's just because I didn't romance her. It says that she can be a party member, but I never actually had her like officially on the squad outside of the Shadow Broker DLC.
Maybe. Yeah, no, she once the DLC's over, she's no longer on your squad.
Okay,
like that, it's just for that.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to clarify that. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts for Liara when she moves into Mass Effect 2?
Man, she's different from last time we saw her.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's way better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, it's just about like every way. She's like way cooler in Mass Effect 2.
Almost to the point like, it almost felt like a different character. A better character.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting because you kind of see parts of like the older characters still there, kind of, where like, you know, she's still she's still really book smart. She still hasn't lost her love for like archaeology and all that, but now she's got a bit more of a harder edge to her. But she's also more confident, like you mentioned that she was more ready to like engage in back and forth with Shepard. She'll even like kind of flirt with him a bit. She's a lot more confident, and I like that I think that's what she was really missing, was like this like sense of confidence, which I get it. Like, she started off as like a bookworm basically in the first game, and now she's basically like sort of a information broker / crime boss in this DLC. Yeah. And she's cool for it. Like, first off, the DLC itself is amazing. All the sheer amount of mission variety. Like, when you do like your little sky car chase, like it was ripped straight out of like Attack of the Clones or something like that. When you're driving the taxi, one of my favorite lines from like Shepard is during that scene is like, he says, "Are there any?" It's like, "Where's the missiles or something on this thing?" And then Liara's like, "Shepard, it's a taxi.
It's a taxi cab." Yeah, he's like, "Do we have any weapons on this thing?" And it's like, "This is a taxi cab. We just stole this. Like, what are you talking about?"
And it's like, it's the showdown with like the rogue Spectre, which is like the only other time in Mass Effect 2 where you come across another Spectre other than Shepard is during that sequence, which is cool. Fighting the Spectre. The Shadow Broker ship is, I think, still one of the coolest locations you go to in all of Mass Effect.
Yeah.
The fact that you're fighting on the outside of the idea behind the ship, that like, how is the Shadow Broker made hidden? Well, he has a special ship that flies around inside a gas giant storm, so no one can detect him, is super cool. And the fact that you're fighting on the outside of the ship, a storm is raging, there's lightning bolts striking down that you have to watch out for, and will also vaporize the enemies you're fighting against, is one of the coolest cinematic parts of all of Mass Effect, honestly. And then you get the actual fight with Shadowbrook himself. Liara gets it all together here. Like, while her presence in Mass Effect 2 itself is kind of short, the DLC really makes up for that, for just giving you all the Liara you could possibly want, and maybe more than you thought you would want. Because coming out of Mass Effect 1, you're like, she's kind of boring, whatever. But she feels so much more interesting and confident and badass.
It was to the point where I was almost upset, like, dang, I can't pursue anything of it. Because I was told, like, yeah, you can't pursue anything with this version of Liara. Because if you did do it the first, I'm like, dang, it's almost unfortunate.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole, like, be careful who you make fun of in middle school, because they might get a glow up. And, like, Liara got a huge glow up. Like, she's just like, like I said, she went from freaking Prothean book nerd to a biotic badass. She, without getting too much into it, she kind of gets on par with Shepard's level. And I think I'll leave it there at that.
Yeah. It really is personality that is the ultimate key. Randy, before we get on to the last character, any other thoughts about Liara?
I think Seth summed it up pretty well about be careful who you call ugly in high school, I guess.
Or really boring. Her looks were never the issue. Yeah. So, the last character. And again, you probably have figured it out. I let 2 people die in my final one. And honestly, this one's Samara's fault. I realized the way the game works, I should have picked a leader. But then that should have led to Samara's death, not him. Because he was the correct choice to be the hacker. And I was so upset when this character died, and that is Legion, the Geth infiltrator. I'm still convinced that I feel like if we tried hard enough, because the way AI works in this world, and he always says it, we're a we, because we're a collection of consciousness. I feel like there's a way to get him back. But according to the game, there's not. He's dead. He took a rocket launcher to the head. And that's unfortunate, because I would have really liked to see where, like, this Geth that's willing to work with human, like, goes. But unfortunately, this, like, Jack was one of the things where it's like, I'm upset because people told me she got better. Legion, I'm upset he died because I was already interested in him. So, yeah, Legion also died in my playthrough, unfortunately. Not for my fault. This is Samara's. And again, he is an AI. I feel like I'm, like, still 80% sure if we tried hard enough, we can get him back. But Randy, I feel like there's something you want to tell me.
How dare you? How dare you?
I thought you were going to say, like, this unit.
I mean, yeah, does this unit have a soul? Yes, his name is fucking Legion.
I had to I named him.
You really fucked this up, too. You also fucked this one up really bad.
Look, okay, I did better than Will's playthrough. Randy, do you want to say how Will's playthrough ended?
I mean, Will kept all the squad mates alive.
Wait, what? I thought you told me I thought you told me he killed people.
No, he did kill people, but none of the squad mates. He got the entire crew killed. So, like, Kelly Chambers, the 2 engineers that were below deck, Dr. Chos.
Dr. Chasley's damn.
Yeah, because he just didn't send anyone back with them.
Oh, okay. I thought when you said he got the whole... I'm not gonna lie.
Great.
When you tell me that he got the whole crew killed...
Kelly did die. I mean, she died before you could send someone back, because he did one mission before going.
Oh, wow.
Because he wanted to do Samara's loyalty mission. Before going on the thing.
Holy shit.
So Kelly died, but then he just didn't sit when Chaucer was like, I gotta go. Or like, we need to, we're in no condition to fight. And he's just like, the mission comes first. Good luck.
Dude, that's shit. At least I tried to keep people alive. He knew exactly what he was doing. But
Which
yeah.
I was surprised he kept everyone alive, considering he didn't do either the loyalty missions for the 2 DLC characters, and they didn't die.
How the fuck?
I think just because he chose correctly for all the other things, though.
I made one mistake with and I thought a Justicar would be and Seth later explained it to me. They're like, no, they really do just work alone. I thought like,
Yeah, they do.
a Justicar, she's been alive for a long time and been fighting crime for a while. She can lead a squad. Apparently not. No, I should have picked Garras. But, again, lieu of my own decisions. This isn't about that. So, Randy, tell me, why do you like Geth? Or not Geth, Legion.
I mean, we do like Geth, but
Not all of it. Not the ones in the...
All right. I like Legion because it gives us our first view into really who the Geth are and kind of how they did become sentient and kind of branch out away from the Quarians. Because initially you play the whole first game pretty much fighting Geth for the most part. And so you're like, man, Geth, those are bad people. Those are bad robots. They're awful. Yeah. They're not people.
They're the big evil guys.
Yeah. And then you get to meet Legion, and he gets to kind of explain to you how this happened, and then after you do both his loyalty mission and Tali's loyalty mission, pretty much Tali pulls a gun on him and is like,
this is a Geth.
Was like, I saw Legion. He was taking information from my Omni tool about the flotilla maybe being a Geth base or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I mean, they're my people. I need to warn them about it and whatnot. And I understand I understand Tali's, reserve for this, but if you had information of the Geth attack on the flotilla, you would warn your people too. So just kind of that back and forth. And he's also he's kind of charming. I remember Will and I loaded up a save file from standing right in front of Legion, and we were talking or whatever, and then we turn and look at the TV, and there's Legion quite literally doing the robot. And I don't know, it was fun.
I definitely agree that him and Tali's dynamic is interesting to say the least. I'm just like, so we have a Geth on board now. And it's very, especially after the first game where literally all you did was fight Geth. It's very interesting to see okay, they're not all like this. They actually do have some. One of my favorite moments from him is when you talk to him and you ask him about why he has N7 armor on, which is the armor. And he's like, oh, this is actually yours from the first game when you died. We scavenged the area and this was to patch up a hole. And he's like, yeah, that's fine and all, but why did you specifically use that part of the chest place with the N7? And he's like, no comment. And he's just like, oh, my guy's a fanboy. He fucking likes Shepard. He admires Shepard, despite me basically genociding his people. But we don't need to talk about that. So yeah, Legion's definitely the one where I'm like, fuck. I wanted him to.
It's interesting just to learn how, because Geth, they do have kind of a collective, kind of network where they share thoughts and memories and whatnot. But because Legion was detached from that network for so long, that he basically becomes more independent. And so that's why I find it so interesting of just being when the Geth are kind of separated, they become this more separate entity. And, if you will, has a soul. Anyway.
We can get him back. Again, we got a lot of tech people on our team. I feel like Tali's just not trying hard enough. I feel like we can get him back, but apparently I can't. He's fine. Seth?
Yeah, I mean, everything Randy said I agree with. I do like the fact that Legion is kind of the first step into talk about hey, maybe everything the Quarians have said about the history with the Geth isn't 100% true, And it's interesting, especially if you romance Tali, the kind of dynamic that creates of like, oh, this is a little awkward.
I had to do it for my girlfriend wanted him dead. That's why.
Yeah, but like I really like Legion. I like his character. I like not only what he does with the Geth, but just because like his interactions with Shepard are very interesting and straightforward in a way. It's because it's like it feels like he doesn't deal with like he's from a synthetic race. They don't deal with the illusions of like just trying to talk around things. He's very direct about what he wants to say, unless of course talking about the armor piece.
Yeah,
I will say I love Legion as much as the next person, as much as Randy does. Randy might be like some more, I don't know, but I like him a lot. But one of the issues I have with Legion isn't really his character itself. I think his placement is very unfortunate in this game.
Yeah,
I agree.
You get him
so far in the end,
so late in the game that you miss out on a lot of cool stuff. Apparently, there is a shit ton of dialogue written with Legion going on different missions that really, the only way you can really get that is if, you got a PC and you basically bring them into your game so you can play through it. But like, now one you can do, but it's so late in the game that I don't know if you would want to risk it considering how tense it is. But you can actually bring Legion onto Tali's ulti mission and it really causes some problems. Like the Quarians, like, basically as soon as Shepard walks out with Legion, they just start pulling out like their guns. It's like, hey, man, what the fuck? It's really fun, and like kind of Legion's response is great. Like I think he literally like hides behind Shepard. No, I remember now. If you bring Legion on Tali's recruitment mission as well, Tali says, Shepard, watch out, and then like she tries to shoot at Legion. And then Legion starts hiding behind Shepard. It's like, Shepard, she's trying to kill me. And Tali's like, move out the way so I can shoot to death. There's like these fun little interactions.
I've seen that. Okay, I have to look that up.
I'm looking this up too. I'm just like, well.
And you miss out on these interactions because Legion comes in so late in the game. He's such a cool character. And it really is a shame that like he kind of gets shafted in terms of screen time just because his placement in the game.
Yeah,
like that. Like that's really the only new thing I can add. And I think, I really don't know how else, but he is kind of adorable as a character. I think it's very cute how he refers to Shepard as Shepard Commander all the time. Like
Shepard
that's
Commander.
such like an iconic, like that's such an iconic voice line with them. Because like for everything about it, there is a sense of like innocence with Legion because he's like he's a first was part of a collective consciousness of those somewhere in his like race of Geth, and now he's becoming independent and having a platform thinking on its own, and that's very interesting. So I don't know. I love Legion. Drew, we'll have to, once we get to Mass Effect 3, we'll have to have a talk about like what you missed out on because damn. You really missed out. I feel bad for Jack, but especially with Legion. Damn. What they do with his character.
I don't like Samara because she's the reason. Because again, I think it's a stupid mechanic that I picked that because he's the correct. By the way, I want to point out I picked him correctly as the hacker because he literally can hack through anything. That was the correct choice. But because I picked the wrong commander for Squad 2. A random rocket flies over and just decks him in the head.
They weren't laying down covering fire.
And that's a stupid... I would have been...
It is very weird because I always thought that like if you pick Legion or whoever be the hacker, they would be safe. It would be whoever is, which is pretty much everybody else, whoever else would be in the squad would be in danger with like the wrong leader. Like those people would be in danger.
And like that would make sense. Because they're with the leader. But I guess not.
I think it's funny because I think one last thing we need to touch on before we finish up with Mass Effect 2 is we do, I think, need to talk about the big standout, which is the suicide mission itself.
Yeah. We talked about it a lot. And we'll try to be fast because this is already long enough. And This is definitely 2 parts. But yeah, go ahead.
I guess I'll start things off with like the suicide mission. I think this is one of the coolest design choices in a video game, especially for a story-based RPG like this, where you can, like, it's kind of like the much later on, obviously, but it's kind of like the Breath of the Wild thing, where like, yeah, you can go straight for Ganon, but you're woefully unprepared, and things are not going to go the way you expect it to. Kind of like with Breath of the Wild, long before Mass Effect 2 kind of proposed, like, after a certain point, it's like, yeah, you can go straight for the finale of this game, but you are woefully unprepared. You will lose. And I like that, even though all of like a lot of the recruitment and the loyalty missions are optional, you want to do them because, one, they're interesting characters. You want to play through those missions because they're actually fun and they're really interesting. But also it plays into the fact that it's like you want to be the most prepared as you possibly can for the finale of this game. And the finale is so tense because even as a person like me, who I've been playing this game well over a decade, and I do replays like every other year or so, even as someone who's played through it countless times, I still get a little bit worried each time I go through with the suicide mission, just because it's like, I hope I remembered everything correctly. I hope I didn't screw this up, because I really don't want to lose a squad mate here. The amount of tension that you've grown so attached to these characters, and now you're putting all of them at risk in this last stretch of the game. It's so well done.
Yeah.
I love that about the suicide mission.
It is definitely true. You can get every character killed. I think you can even also get yourself killed.
Yeah.
At the end.
You can.
You have to really mess up.
Yeah,
But you can. You can get literally everyone killed and yourself killed.
It's one of the more like, that's one of the most like tense things in a video game that I've ever seen. That's like everyone, no matter what, and it's so much better than Mass Effect 1's ending, where it's like, oh, you're risking the two least like popular characters. No, every single member of your squad. That's like, there's a reason that I chose Samara, because I didn't want to take Garras away from me, because my thought was like, is Garras right here next to me, I'll be fine. But, and same with Mordin. Like, Garras and Mordin didn't leave my side during the suicide mission. I was like, you two, if I lose everyone else, you two are fine. But it's just like, there's so many characters in the game. I mean, look how long we've been talking for. There's so many characters in this game. They're super interesting. But you don't, like, you're so nervous about losing anyone. Like, even the least interesting character, unless you're Randy, who purposely kill Miranda. Like, there's no character in this that I'm like, I would have been happy with just throwing to the wolves and being like, there really is no Ashley in Mass Effect 2, especially since I killed her in 1. But there's no one who like I would have just thrown away. So yeah, the suicide mission's great. And with
I really I agree. Like like I said, the amount of tensions there, the attachments you've grown to these characters, it's kind of baffling to me that there really hasn't been a game like this that has like a finale this tense since, in my opinion, like any other game where it's like you feel the stakes of like so much and you're so worried about your choices. The closest thing I can think of, and granted, it's not necessarily the finale, just the way the game is designed, is the XCOM games. That's like the closest thing I can think of. And they're not really characters. I mean, you could give them like Randy, I'm sure, named a bunch of
and give them names,
but like it's not like you grew. It's not like, oh, I grew attached to this character's story, because there really isn't a story. They're custom characters.
Their story is Randy like named one of them after either me or Seth, and then one of us
like,
dies.
Oh, hey, Drew, you died.
And it's like, shoot.
And that's about it. So.
And Randy probably tried to go out of his way, but he's like, what's the coolest way I could get Seth and Drew killed? Like, what's the coolest way? Melted in acid. All right, let's do that.
All right.
Okay. Well, with that all said, thank you for watching this. This will probably be split up. What I might do is, I don't know. I'll work on how to split this up. But
real quickly, Drew, did you want to do a fresh pick?
I almost completely forgot about it. Thank you. Actually, I'm glad you talked because there is a game that I do want to talk about. Thank you. As I normally finish up all my shows, doing a fresh pick of the week. I'm sorry. Thank you, Seth. And I'll go first to let everyone else think about it because normally I also warn you guys ahead of time. But I will go first this week to talk about mine. And it is a game that kind of was shadow dropped. I tweeted about this on our Twitter, and I've been playing it nonstop ever since. And that is Hi-Fi Rush by Bethesda Studios, and made by the same people that made the is Evil Within.
Evil Within.
Yeah,
Evil Within 2.
Yep. Horror developers, and this is nothing like that. This is a hi-fi action rhythm game. It is like Jet Set Radio meets DMC meets Bayonetta, and it's super fun. The characters have great dialogue. There's a lot of different supers and combo attacks that are musical references. But the big standout in this game is that everything from movement to dodging to attacking to enemy attacks, everything is on beat with the rhythm. And it's one of those things, it's going to be very difficult at first, but once you start getting into that groove, it is one of the most satisfying freaking things to play ever. And it's incredibly impressive that everything is on beat with the music. Like, not even like the backgrounds jumping up and down. Even when you just walk around, your steps will be with the music. And it's really just like incredibly technically impressive that they're able to do something like this. And again, as most of our picks are, it is on Game Pass. It literally came out the day it was announced. And it's one of those, even if you don't, I'm pretty sure it's only like $30, but this is definitely worth the admission for a full price game. So definitely if you have Game Pass or if you have an Xbox, you deserve to like go and try out Hi-Fi Rush. So yeah. Seth, have you been able to...
I want to jump in on this.
Yeah.
I'll add to this. This game was shadow dropped. Like they had like a little developer direct. Xbox did with a lot of its studios talking about different things from like Redfall from Arcane, the next Forza game, a new expansion for Elder Scrolls Online, and there's like, oh, what's Tango Gameworks working on? They basically day and date they announced the game and they're like, hey, you can play it in a few hours. I also have been playing it. It's a blast. And suddenly when you look up the team who makes this up with Hi-Fi Rush, it kind of makes sense how this game got made. Because if you know anything about Tango Gameworks, you know that one of the big headliners there is Shinji Mikami. He worked at both Platinum and Capcom. He basically helped create Resident Evil 4. That's probably the thing he's known for the most. But he also helped make the first Devil May Cry game. And whenever he was at Platinum, he also helped make not Bayonetta, but Vanquish. But like a lot of the alum from Tango Gameworks are people who worked on like Bayonetta, Devil May Cry, all that shit. So this is an action game made by people who have done action games before, even if the studio itself hasn't. So I played it myself. I'm really enjoying it. I love the aesthetic. It's like, the best way I can describe this aesthetic, Drew, is, and I don't know if you'll agree with me, it's not quite anime. It's like Cartoon Network saw, it's like early Cartoon Network saw anime. It's like, let's do a show in the style of this. And that's what we got. Yeah. It feels like that.
I could definitely see this as like a Saturday morning cartoon, especially with like a lot of the designs are like cel-shaded. And there are times where it goes from like its 3D look to like 2D animation. And I'm like, this looks amazing. I want this TV show. So
yeah. Oh yeah, and like the transitions between those are phenomenal. So yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Really good game.
Great game. Yeah, definitely. If you haven't tried it out yet, look it up. You're doing yourself a disservice. Go play it. This will be like something I write down and wait for like whenever we do like our game of the years. This will be something I talk about, which is amazing that it came out of nowhere, and it's just like this is amazing. But yeah, I could do a whole podcast about that show. Maybe another time I will. But for right now, Seth, do you have a fresh pick?
I do. I got a weird one.
Interesting.
But I think it's worth watching especially if you have Netflix. So about almost a month ago, I was in Japan and I watched a show that I did watch as a kid, but I watched it again while I was there with Jake, and it was something like, oh, I remember watching this as a kid, and they're still doing it. It's basically a game/reality show called Run for the Money.
For the show?
So essentially the premise of it is they take a lot of these sort of celebrities, they're athletes, they're like social media influencers, they're actors, they're singers and songwriters, all this stuff, and they basically put them in an area where it's like this ultimate game of tag, where for about 3 to 4 hours they are trying to survive that time while being chased by these dudes in suits, like they look like Agent Smith from The Matrix, and they are chasing them down and trying to grab them, and they act robotic. That's their deal. They look like Terminators walking around with sunglasses and stuff like that. And what's so funny about it is that as the show progresses, with each hour or so, they throw in a different twist, like an objective that the people running around have to complete, or a consequence will happen. They start putting in different, it's like a video game. It's different variants of the dudes chasing them. So not only do you have the normal dudes, the hunters in the suits, but now you have those guys on surfboards riding in the canals, that you have them piloting drones and shit. It's bonkers. It's a show that gets just progressively more ridiculous, and it's hard to look away. I watch so Netflix has a version of this made by the same people, but it's one that's made specifically for Netflix. I think most people are going to watch. It's called Run for the Money Battle Royale. It's only 4 episodes, and each is about an hour long. But I watched it with a group of friends, and we were only thinking of just watching 1 episode. We ended up binging all 4 because it was that interesting and compelling. So if you have Netflix, check out Run for the Money Battle Royale. I hope they bring another season to it. And if you want to watch the other Japanese, it's all Japanese. But if you want to watch the original showing that's in Japan, you might have to look at other options we may not be able to mention on this podcast. So, yeah.
Wow.
Run for the Money. I recommend it.
Very interesting show. I'll have to look that up at some point.
Watch a trailer. Just
watch a trailer. Okay. Well, Randy, I know I normally prepare you ahead of time. Do you have a fresh pick?
I do. I guess I'll be the more basic one, because I assume a lot of people are watching this show. Particularly, I'd assume part of our audience, if they just listen to a big, long podcast about video games.
Yeah.
You'll probably also watch shows that are based on a video game.
Mm-hmm.
The Last of Us. The Last of Us has been coming out on HBO Max, and Bella Ramsey is doing an amazing job as Ellie, and Pedro Pascal, being the dad of all dads,
the dad of the internet,
is being amazing as Joel. And so I'd assume, if you listen to this podcast, I'd assume you're familiar with the game The Last of Us, considering they've released it 5 different times at this point, via re-releases or remasters or whatnot. But it is fantastic. The game is fantastic, and I think the show is doing a great job of living up to that and making it's not 100% of complete retelling. They're making altercations where appropriate, and I think they're doing a good job about it. When they do deviate from the game, I think it's done very well. So yeah, go watch it. It's if you're not familiar with what The Last of Us is, it's pretty much infected outbreak coming from fungus.
Yeah.
Yeah, zombies. It's zombies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the fungus twist. And yeah, I definitely agree. If you liked Pedro Pascal as the Mandalorian, you'll love him as this. Because that man definitely knows how to play a father figure, despite not being a father in real life. But as Randy likes calling him, he definitely owns up to the daddy personality. This has definitely been a fun show to watch. It's been a fun, week by week, I've been enjoying it. And, I think it does like kind of live up to the Last of Us name. And yeah, definitely keep it watching. It recently got already renewed for a second season, despite only 3 episodes at this point being released. So if that doesn't tell you like
it's
how much
it's mad successful.
Yeah, if that doesn't tell you how much people are like into this show already, that should be a pretty clear indicator. So definitely check it out. It's on HBO Max.
Plus also it feels like HBO is a lot better about preserving shows that do well on their platform than some other platform, like let's say Netflix.
Yeah.
About renewing shows that deserve it. So I haven't checked it out personally, but it sounds cool. I have played the Last of Us games. I have very strong opinions about those games. I like them, so I might give it a shot.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, that is everything for today. I want to thank Seth for joining us.
It's always a pleasure being here.
And of course, I want to thank Randy for also joining.
Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, everyone, thank you for listening to this very long episode, but 'tis Mass Effect. Everyone kind of saw this coming, and stay safe out there.